and welcome to another episode of Tabletakes presented by Gen Con. My name is Emma. I'm joined today by Bonsai and Derek.
Why, hello.
One person is not here. I think it's something Rifts. Something
Rifts.
Portal.
Have you tried? Maybe he tried Rifts a little too hard.
Oh God!
Too much
Rifts.
riffs.
Too much Rifts.
Too much riffs.
I'm beginning to wonder if we should just like leave his seat empty and have a little balloon floating there.
This is Rifts.
That like one side is his face, and the other side says, "Has you tried Rifts?" And it will just slowly rotate through the episode.
That actually does sound fabulous.
That actually sounds really good.
Yeah.
I vote for that.
Tech team.
Tech. Yep.
Yep,
You got
Make
this.
us props.
All right. They're like, no. All right. First on our list of headlines is new stuff in Warhammer. Derek.
Speaking of people being bones,
What?
What?
in my mind there was a path from someone's sick to someone's dead to you use their body to build an army out of. And it made a whole lot more sense
Wow,
to
that
me.
was a lot of
That was their steps that were missing.
Yep. Well,
That's okay. We're going to talk about the crotch goblin.
thank
so.
you all for joining me on this journey through my mind. Yeah, so there's a new army out for Warhammer Age of Sigmar. If you're following Warhammer, you're probably seeing a whole lot of this. But like the great Necromancer Nagash from old Warhammer Fantasy and whatnot, still around, still raising the army of the dead. So now we have the Ossiarch Bone Reapers,
Okay.
which are like imagine like robots plus like aliens plus Tyranids made of bone.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like necromantic murder hordes.
Yeah. Ooh, fun.
Wait, but it's not so bad because you said they go to a town and they don't kill people. They just ask for their bones. So like, just dig up your graveyard and
Well,
here's the bones.
just to be clear, step one is give us
Okay.
your bones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our tech team was explaining this.
Yeah,
Step
okay.
one is give us your bones.
Yes.
Step two is that's not enough bones.
Oh,
Step three is chop off your own arms to give us those bones. Still not enough bones. We're going to kill your whole town and take them all.
What?
That seems like extra
Seems like a
effort.
catch-22.
Yeah.
Maybe you shouldn't negotiate with the necromantic terrorists.
Or maybe you should just have a 3D printer
Oh, yeah.
that
I'm
produces.
pretty sure that 3D printing bones out of plastic would not work with necromancy.
I mean, what if you had a magical one that made magical, realistic, really
I
real
feel
bones?
like you are already working on the Ossiarch Bone Reaper side. You're already on the bad guy
What
side.
if they were animal bones?
But what if we just
Yeah.
used necromancy to give the necromancers what they wanted?
Yeah.
We wouldn't have
Yeah.
to worry about the necromancers.
Why not? We're
then
not
once they have-
technically evil
Anyway.
if
Yeah.
we're just giving them bones.
There's a whole bunch of new scopes. There's
Yeah.
a new box set that is these Bone Reapers, who are like these really like heavily plated. So it's not just skeletons, basically.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
These guys are like wearing armor, or they're made of like bone armor. There's a bunch of different factions. There's a whole bunch of new scopes. There's a box set that is this army versus a bunch of rotund, constantly eating ogres.
Yeah. The
It is
ogres.
also sold out.
Yeah.
So if anybody is really eager to get Ossiarch
get
Bone
it.
Reapers or ogres, if you see it in the store, you want to pick it up.
Yep. It's actually pretty cool. Do you have a picture of them set up?
No.
Like one of them here? Oh,
No,
man.
we're not that advanced to have pictures.
There.
We have
Just
a link.
imagine.
We can post a link that will have pictures.
Paint us a word picture of the crotch goblin.
So yes.
Yeah,
so
I just kind of wanted
the crotch goblin part is great. So one of the units
Yes.
is a like large hulking brute. Imagine a monstrous beast constructed from the corpses and the bones of many soldiers, dozens of soldiers,
And like a metal exoskeleton.
Yeah.
like a bone exoskeleton.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Made of skeletons.
Okay.
An exoskeleton skeleton.
Okay.
And then, two huge metal fists that are just balls of
Yeah.
spikes that will crush and destroy
So
anything.
they're like big daddies made out of skeletons.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
But a little meaner, with like
Okay,
a
okay.
giant wolf head or something like that.
Oh, or like a
Okay.
crocodile.
Sure,
Almost like
yeah,
a,
yep. A dead wolf crocodile monster zombie thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wading through the battlefield, murdering. He'll punch an opponent. The opponent will explode into a shower of bones. For, I kid you not, his little crotch goblin to collect
I know.
so they can
I
make
could
more
just
enemies.
It's like a
Sure.
crotch codpiece.
Yeah, so you have this huge hulking monster, and then
Yeah.
like from between his legs is just a little guy with arms and a head, being like, "Give me the bones."
Yeah.
Unibones.
I have to say that sounds kind of like cheating. Like necromancy, you think of like the wizards in the back who just come along and like boop the dead things, but
Yeah.
this
The
is
dead.
like
Boop 'em.
boop the dead with their life magic. But these ones are more actively they kill the people. Seems a little
That's what's called synergy.
multi-purpose.
It's
Yeah.
called synergy, working together, convergences.
Yeah. Man, I want to be in that pitch room, but also not. Like, you just, okay, here's an idea. Okay, you're with me? Crotch goblin.
Yep. Okay, yep.
Skulls.
Ship it.
I mean, is
In
it any
the arms.
worse than some of those like skeleton, like morph creatures that are the centipede skeletons? That are just like, you know how centipede, the movie Centipede are?
Yeah.
So it's like that.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
So there's a whole. I mean,
What you
we
can do
did
with
say that Age of Sigmar is
necromancy.
grimdark.
Yeah.
It's grimdark fantasy.
Yeah.
That's where you get your crotch goblins.
Yeah.
So, Ossiarch Bone Reapers are the new army.
Cool.
People are very excited, and they are currently very sold out, I think.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
very sold out.
Keep an eye for that to come back, or if you find it, snatch it up. Just like the goblins.
Yep,
Snatching
just
up
like
the
you
bones.
were grabbing those bones.
Haha, local family, local gaming stores.
All right, next up on our list.
That would make an incredible Halloween costume. Is like someone on stilts just walking through
Oh my
made of
gosh.
bones, and like their little baby just like.
Wow, I want to see that now. That's like putting that out into the world. Next year, Halloween.
Halloween next year.
All right, next on our list of headlines, WotC cuts requirements for WPN. Oh, yeah, sorry, you did rearrange that.
Yep.
Yes.
Oh, completely. All right, Magic news. I can see it, it's on both sides here.
Okay.
WotC reveals 4 new Commander products for Magic the Gathering. First Commander set to offer boosters, 20-card boosters, which I was talking about this with people earlier, and the first time that you're going to have a draftable question mark Commander set, which seems pretty, because they're not saying draftable brawl, which seems like it would be a little more reasonable because that's 60-card decks, like a Commander deck.
Yeah, but the first question that I have is like Commander's not like a completely different way of playing Magic.
Yeah.
Like it's a larger deck, and it's what 100 cards. You can only have one of each card, and you have to have a commander that you can keep casting.
Yeah.
Like those are the basic things.
Yeah,
Right. So, is this the first time there's been a set that's not just Commander, but focused on Commander? Did they have Commander sets in the past?
No,
Not Commander products, but sets.
No, not at all. Like for actual boosters of it. I think there have been, so like Battle Bond and even like the unsets, like there were periods where the unsets were technically legal in Commander, so they've played around with some things that are a little more Commander focused, but for something to be completely 100% this, I mean, this is like, it's not gonna be something, presumably this is gonna hit standard. So just specifically, and also because, again, presumably they're doing 100-card Commander decks, they're calling it Commander, so
Yeah.
it will have to be a completely different draft format. Like for typical draft set, you're passing the packs around, you're going to make 40-card decks out of that, so you're going to need to be drafting multiple cards at a time just to make it not take forever.
Yeah. So the reason people are so excited about Commander generally,
Yeah.
in my experience, I haven't played a ton of it,
Yeah.
is it seems like there's kind of a wider card pool that's legal for it, and you end up
Yeah.
with like more weird, crazy combos.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
it's the somewhat casual, fun, crazy combo mode of Magic.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's really, the whole reason it came about is for bringing kitchen table Magic back. Because with power creep, you know, you're playing with your friends. I've done this, like you start like playing the decks, like, oh, I really like this, I got a cool combo going on, and someone brings a better deck, and you're like, oh, well, now I'm losing all the time, and now I have to get a better deck. So
Yeah.
things slowly trend towards meta, and when you're having, you know, up to 4 cards of each type in a deck, then it's that more convergence of decks. Whereas Commander, you still have the power creep, but the idea of it is to be able to play those really cool cards. And Magic makes all these cards that no one ever plays, like even in a draft setting, because everyone's so competitive. So it's like, oh, this one, if I survive to turn 20, it makes like 20 flying demons that hit you in the face.
Yeah.
You know, and like those dramatic moments, or it's like, this one I can like exile your cards one by one and just defend myself and just like be really slow and grindy. So there's so many ways you can play Magic that most people don't get experience. So it seems like they're trying to recapture this and sell more products. Because for Commander, you know, often people get their Commander deck and that's like, don't really change that much unless a really good card comes out.
Yeah.
So that's another way to get to pull the Commander people back.
Well,
into the
it'll be really
retail fold.
interesting to see what a set that is ostensibly designed for 1 card per deck of
Yeah.
will be different from a
Right.
set that's assuming 4 cards per deck of.
Yeah, yeah. And also just the frequency of the cards, because you'd have to have it set, because usually you give your commons and like you open up 3 packs or like passing around all the packs. Like there are things, the 7 dwarves card now, you can get 7 dwarves.
I suppose it does occur to me, if Commander requires you to have 1 unique cards,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know, can you imagine a set that has no rarity? That like almost all the cards are of the same rarity?
Right.
So that you don't end up, it
With a
reduces
creep?
the likelihood of when you're drafting, you ending up with multiple copies of the same card.
Oh, so you
Yeah.
can't, like, isn't the max though 4 anyways though?
Yeah, in normal, yes. That's
Yeah.
that's why rarity is not a huge problem. And like also, to be
okay.
clear, we're wildly speculating here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
Wild speculation.
Yeah.
Wild.
But also in draft formats, you can play as many as you can get your hands on.
Okay.
So if you can, for the most part, it's just like if you grab it, then you can put it in your deck. It doesn't
Then
have the
they
same
might be changing that
limitations.
for this draft commander.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe you'll have multiple of a card in the deck.
Yeah. Or
Okay.
man, yeah. I can't, maybe that would make more sense if you can get them.
Yeah. I have a feeling they're more likely to bend that rule than have no rarity in a booster
Right.
pack.
Yeah.
'Cause
Right. Because
having no rarity in a Magic booster seems crazier.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, talk to Peter about it on the Fireside show and how
Yeah.
they had to implement that because like everything was going off the rails. 'Cause they needed to show people, especially kids, you know, don't trade this card for this card because this one's just way better. And here's
It's
a way
shiny.
to, yeah, it's shiny.
Shiny.
It's a special shiny. Yeah, so that's one of the things, the new sealed, the boosters for Commander, and then also a bunch of decks are coming out with the new sets. The other thing that WotC is tweaking a little bit, and we were talking about this before the show, because it was the way that they're doing their competitive tournaments and the formats that they're putting into those.
Yeah.
So they've always done it where specific tournaments, they're pretty clear. You know, this one's a modern tournament, or it'll have like modern and sealed, modern and draft. So getting into the tournament, you'll know what you're getting into. Because the most professional players, a lot of them will play pretty much any format. Like they play modern, they play standard, like if you're trying to be truly competitive. But a lot of players, like I don't play modern. You know, if I showed up at a tournament, it was like, oh, it's all modern, and I'd be like, okay, I guess not really.
Yeah.
Although they'll often have side events as well. But there's restructuring the Wizards Play Network qualifiers into phases. So there will be, and looking at some of the details, it's like January 11th to 26th, it will be a standard, modern, and sealed, and maybe some of those. And then February 1st to March 15th, standard and sealed. So they're trying to chunk it up into sections, but for us looking at it right now, it's
Seems
kind of
weird.
just confusing.
Yeah.
I imagine they'll put out more details. But
Yeah.
the interesting thing to me is that there's, 4-ish kind of broad formats.
Yes,
There
because
was-
the Pioneer is going to
Yep,
be
yep.
in there.
So
now.
there was standard, modern, sealed,
Yeah.
and Pioneer. And then trying to figure out how to support all 4 of those formats through the tournament circuit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems like their answer is to phase through them.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they're going to end up doing like a predictable cycle, or if they're going to kind of swing back and forth based on whims or based on sets that have come out or something else.
Yeah.
Because it seems it doesn't seem easily predictable from here.
Right.
Okay.
So it's not like they're going to do these 2 and then one falls off and another gets added, and like not like the way they used to do set rotation with blocks.
Right. Right.
So it's unclear how they're determining what's being supported. But it's very interesting that they seem to be making a conscious decision that they don't want all modes of competitive to be available at the same time.
Right.
And it probably makes sense because they don't want to split the audience across 4 formats all the time.
Yeah. And no mention of draft, which is interesting. I might have to research that some more because draft is an important, like when you look at draft versus sealed, I feel like draft is a more competitive format because sealed is very luck based for, you know, you just get the foil Garuk, which is better than the regular Garuk because it's shiny, more powerful that way, more likely to tilt your opponents for them seeing your luck that you've pulled
Sure,
this
yeah.
very valuable
Yeah.
card.
Is that
sure.
so?
It is absolutely 100% true. It's a fact. One other way that you could look at this is for professionals playing this, like there is a lot of understanding metas and seeing, there's a lot of research that goes into it, deck construction, testing your deck. Like it's very hard to go back and forth between, now I'm going to be playing Modern, now I'm going to be playing Sealed, I have to learn the environment.
But you did mention that most professionals, or aspiring professionals, play all formats.
Yeah. Well, and then with Pioneer as well, maybe that's something they've had pushback for, to say like, okay, you know, I'm like playing Modern, and then like I've been studying this, putting my deck together, and all of a sudden there's a standard tournament after that. Like maybe they've been stretching the abilities of their player base. And another thing, like with more time to focus on, say, Standard, it could give people more time to brew decks and have more interesting matchups instead of just like, well, I'm just going to grab whatever's top of the meta because I don't have time to like work on it and break it.
Sure.
Yeah. So
it'll be interesting to see what impact the rotation of formats has.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So that's enough of the first wave of Magic news. Next up, I believe we have some L5R interesting stuff happening.
Yep.
Derek.
So Legend of the Five Rings.
Yes.
In case anybody is not hip with the lingo. Yeah. So Legend of the Five Rings. We talked about it before. It's the card game, the RPG that are based in totally not Japan.
Yeah, they came back.
No, it's
right?
Just,
it was dead.
It's just your like just take generic Asia, slap it together. That's what it is.
Asia.
But it's a very classic game.
Yeah.
It was famous back in the day for having the storyline that covered both games was determined by who won the tournaments,
Yeah.
which made for some real wacky stories.
Yeah. And a lot of engagement from the player base.
But there's a new expansion coming out, a new deluxe expansion, because it's an LCG now. So you just buy a little pack that has 60 cards, 3 copies of every card you want.
Yeah.
That's it. So there's no randomization. But the new deluxe one that's coming out seems to be taking a bigger step where it's introducing 2 different multiplayer modes to the game. And one of them, I believe, is currently in beta. It may have come out, but I think this product is going to be the first, like, it's an official format now, not in testing anymore.
Yeah.
And that's one of the classic Enlightenment modes where you're trying to collect all 5 elemental rings by taking different actions in the game. And you're just trying to be the first player to do that.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, and you can play 3, 4, 5 players that way.
Yeah.
The other mode that they have a couple of details here is really interesting. It's not super, we didn't have a whole lot of information on it, but Team Conquest mode,
Yeah.
At first sounds like it's just Two-Headed Giant or 2v2 or something like that. But then they have this note where you have to write down the terms of your alliance, and you write down what penalty you incur if you break the alliance, which made my Scorpion playing Heart immediately go, oh, you can break an alliance.
Or just your general game playing Heart.
Do you
Suddenly-
have
Betray
no
your heart.
honor? Do you have no honor? I mean,
I have a higher honor,
I
is
mean,
what the Scorpion player would say.
Because I didn't get reintroduced to Legend of the Five Rings until it was a role-playing game, and so
Which was read about at the same time.
yeah. Oh, okay, I didn't realize because my friend was like, "Oh, it's a card game first." I was like, "What? No, it's a
Yeah,
role-playing."
they came out really, really close together.
Yeah.
Okay.
So are the terms of these agreements freeform then? You can do something like,
I don't
you
know.
have to say really nice things to me. And if you don't say nice things to me, you lose all your honor and you're a jerk and I
Who knows?
win.
Who knows?
But there is some
Let's explore.
There's some catch kind of games sometimes because you can be like you can't betray your clan and you can't betray your emperor, but your emperor wants you to betray your clan.
Right.
So that right there is a classic samurai story, classic L5R story of Ninjo and Giri coming into conflict.
Yep.
But in this context, you apparently have an honor loss for breaking an alliance, which makes sense. And I guess there are cards that influence the alliance. But it's interesting to me, the idea of having a 2v2 where the sides can break at any point and reform strikes me as really interesting.
And is there still one winner is the question. Like it's 2v2, but only one of us can win.
No, it's like I imagine that a team can win.
Okay.
But it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
So, I'm excited by that.
One of the cool things is the fact that L5R is still going strong. Like it's cool to see that. I think the introduction of a multiplayer format is a very healthy thing, and it definitely opens up the experience, because like, what if you have 3 players or 5 players and you like you don't want to leave one person out, right? So it makes you less likely to play that game. I also wonder if, maybe they picked up some of that, the Netrunner detritus, if they've had people coming into the game.
I don't know. It seems like it's I think that LCGs have had a challenge in figuring out how to keep their meta and player communities engaged when you don't have the randomization. Like, I think it's just kind of a very different perspective. Like, I think when you come from a board game side, you're like, great, I bought the 1 pack, and I have all the cards I need, and I'm going to build my deck, and we're going to play this.
Yeah.
We're just going to play it, basically. Where you have the people coming from the Magic side who are like, part of the joy of Magic is that chase, is that running for the new cards, opening up a pack, seeing what it's like, trying out a new format, things like that. So I hope that they continue to experiment with things like this to give new ways to play the game, and I'm hoping that will keep the LCG a little healthier as it goes along. Because one of the big problems that Netrunner had is, it had a wait of many years of releases. They had not started getting into the Magic rotating thing. So you had a large body of cards by the end of that game's lifespan. And they were, right when the game kind of ended, as they were talking about how do you do that? Releasing a new core set, how do you start, for an LCG, how do you start phasing out old cards? Do you follow the Magic model? Do you do something different? So pretty soon, I think Legend of the Five Rings is going to have to grapple with those same things, those same questions. And it'll be really intriguing to see how they do that.
Yeah, just keeping things fresh and interesting, having a balance between complexity creep and power creep and people loving the old stuff, and your audience starts to splinter a little bit, where you have your new players and players played forever, and how much of the stuff do you need? It's a tricky job, but it seems like it's like the little engineer who could. It's like you're still doing it. I think it's like I've played before, there's some really cool mechanics going on there, and it's one of the living card games that's complex, but if you play the first match or whatever, you play with the starter set, you're like, oh, I get what's going on here. It's got an easy entry point.
It's different enough from Magic that there's definitely a learning curve. It's almost just not similar to Magic almost at all.
Except it's a card game. That's it. That's the only similarity.
Just has a lot of clever things with like when cards come in, when you activate them. There's a lot of subtlety to the strategy there.
Okay.
All right, so in more, we're calling this minis news.
We got a boat. We got a boat.
Don't you ever forget?
There.
That's the lyrics of the song.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We're on a boat.
Oh, boy.
We're on a boat.
We're on a boat.
We had it, and then it just,
Yeah, sorry. It went above my So, if you guys want to know some exciting news, WizKids is releasing a miniature boat set. We use air quotes in this. So let me go ahead and give you for standards. My hand is about 6 inches long. This ship is going to be about the width of my hand, and then about the size of my arm going like this. That's the height. And then 2 arms combined is the length of the ship.
So it's a small table you put on your table.
You put a small table on your table to put miniatures and play on a boat with.
And have epic boat battles.
Epic boat battles.
Well, to have a boat battle, wouldn't you need like a second boat? And then like you'd have to like rent a warehouse to have the 2 boats fight each other?
But you could be on a boat.
Sure.
You could just be on a boat. But no, you could just be in the park and then pretend like these boat battles.
I think if you're gonna
you just want toys. You just want toys.
Get some bath toys.
No, we need.
Do they float? Does it float? Did we research that?
Oh no, we didn't research whether or not it floats.
It's plastic. I'm sure it floats
You have
the
to
wrong way.
seal it.
Oh,
I'm sure it just floats upside down.
Ballast. Okay.
But
we need a guide to make this seaworthy.
Well, also, is there like
I feel
ropes?
like you could just make a boat.
Is there ropes that the figures can like swing across?
Ooh, there's rigging.
There's rigging, so there should be.
There's a mast.
I feel like the features the 2 of you seem to want for this miniature boat, I suspect that maybe you just want to go buy a remote controlled boat and put a mini on it.
but a fancy one with like the canvas
and then
sails.
also with like remote cannons you can fire.
Ooh,
Yeah, there's definitely a whole direction here you're going that I don't think the average D&D player who just needed a boat to play on because they wanted to play Ghosts of Salt Marsh needed.
And then like they're on little remote control Roombas, the different characters on the boat, so you can like have them move around.
Did we ever tell you one of the event ideas we wanted to try to do at Gen Con one year was to make big wooden boats that you could sit in, and we would take a huge hall, and the wooden boats would be on casters.
Yes.
And it would be like a Flintstones car, and we would give you a dodgeball, and you would throw the dodgeball like it was your cannon.
That sounds like the best
it.
thing ever.
That
Why
sounds
did
like
that not happen?
A lot of reasons.
Lots of reasons.
Safety
Liability.
reasons.
Liability. I mean, it would be interesting to see because I've been to like conventions and other areas where they do historical it's always people making their own custom boats, and so just having that boom big ship, you know, and I'm sure it's scaled too mini, so that's why they had to make it so big.
Yeah.
So chat has mentioned the Bones 5 Kickstarter also has a boat. I feel like they have hacked into our agenda. We're previewing what we were going to talk about later.
Gas.
So
Lots
spoilers.
Of boats. Boats for days.
There's boats for days.
Well, some of the most exciting combat you can have in D&D or other non-named role-playing games is having your characters be on a boat. And you like have a little string and time to the rigging, and it can be like, and then my character jumps down on this character like Assassin's Creed and stabs them.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm also,
And then you
I feel
crit
like
on
we
your
just
combat.
need to get you some toys.
I mean, also,
But with role-playing.
I wonder what the quality is on this because I do wonder because you know,
Well,
if you-
WizKids has a pretty good reputation for the sculpts, at least. I think some people are a little unhappy with the paint job sometimes, but you can always fix that on a miniature yourself.
But
and
this one is unpainted. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's unpainted.
as far as I know, everyone's very happy with the quality of a lot of their minis, and they come pre-primed. I don't know if this one will, but a lot of their other minis have come pre-primed, so they're pretty easy to just jump right into.
Yeah. I mean, it's just an ongoing trend of big set pieces. I think a lot of the companies we've had on the show before, like at Gen Con, we were doing the interviews for the Dwarven Forge and the ones that have just really cool terrain. There's definitely a class of role-playing gamers who just want that cool stuff, even just in your cabinet display, you know, with all your stuff on it, and just like, okay, I've got the things, and now I've got my like centerpiece boat.
And then I can put it in a glass case and super glue all the figurines there.
And with the crotch goblin can go on
Do you
there.
remember when we were doing our agenda,
Yes.
and we were focused on it, and we were very serious about it?
Yes.
Yes.
And we were like, how will we possibly fill time?
Yeah.
And then we started talking at length about the Crotch Goblin pirate ship. Do you remember that time?
Yeah.
Because I do, because it just happened.
Right. It was really exciting.
This is very
Very
serious
excited
news.
about the boat. Yeah.
Very serious news.
Anyways,
Yeah.
moving on, moving back to the cuts to the requirements for WPN premium status.
Yes.
So Wizards Play Network. I think
Wizards
is what
Play
it is.
Network.
Play Network is the
Yeah,
What
so
are those?
back in June, they had discussed some requirements for stores to be considered their WPN premium stores. And these are some, I would say, pretty stiff requirements. So it has to do with number of tickets, number of engaged players, number of new players. Wizards is really trying to make sure that the stores that they support, they want to keep it a synergistic relationship. So they want to make sure that it's like, oh, we're going to give you all sorts of cool stuff, like promos, different marketing materials. We want to make sure, you know, if you're
They're
just...
listed on the website.
Yes.
It's the eligibility to order certain products.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And then they want to make sure that these companies are, you know, if they do list it on the website, it's like you're doing these consistently. And when people do show up, it's not just two people there. So it makes sense that they do have some requirements. But they have cut those requirements because, as we were discussing before the show, it can be pretty hard for a lot of local game stores to meet these.
It seems like they've cut them by 25 to 33%-ish on the whole.
Yeah, so from 3,000 tickets sold to 2,000,
Yes.
60 engaged players to 40, and 20 new players to 15.
So is that per month or per year?
per year.
Per year, yes.
Per year.
3,000 per
Not-
month would be
that would be
a
too much
lot.
per month.
Yeah. And some places, like here in Seattle, we have Mox Boarding House, and they regularly fill. You know, there's not really much of a challenge for these established stores in a known, Magic started here, right? So it's like
Seattle's a very nerdy.
right,
Very
yeah.
nerdy.
So like if they have 2,000 players per year, 52-ish Friday Night Magics.
Yeah,
Someone want to do the math for that?
that's 50. That's 40.
Okay, so
40 or 400. 40. Yeah.
40.
What?
Yeah.
Great.
Sure.
So
40 per Friday Night
sure,
Magic.
sure.
Yeah.
So you need about 40-ish players
Yeah.
every Friday.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which seems like a lot.
Yeah.
Or you need to be able to run multiple other tournaments.
Yeah.
Like if you do 2 tournaments a week, then
Yeah.
it's 20 players at a time, which seems much more manageable.
Yeah.
It's currently, what is it? They said over 9,800 players.
Yeah. So that
Yeah.
is Will commenting on what goes through mocks basically.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. What goes
Yeah.
through? I was like, where's that one? Where's that one from? Okay.
But there are definitely places that, where they're trying to grow the scene, or they might have started, like a lot of people are starting new local game stores, and Magic can be a great way to bring in profit, and having this extra support from Wizards can be a great way for these stores to stay in business and supplement, when the board game sales don't always do that great. But places like Los Angeles were saying, oh, they only have 1 store, and then New York City doesn't have any stores. And being able to just get in New York City, getting 40 people in a room at the same time
Is
in a
very
retail setting, especially not like a high-end retail setting. Because I've been to Magic events in New York City, and it was like you go to this kind of shady part of town, and you like climb up some rickety stairs.
There was the whole East Coast
and you
vibe
like
too.
go in there, and there's wafts of like, because there's no windows in it. So and you were talking about Boston too, right? The game stores there.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just like it's a difference between East Coast, West Coast in terms of building standards. When you have more room to fit people and to there's just retailers have a limited amount of space and it's expensive real estate. In
Y'all
these
people
stores.
not on the East Coast don't know how good you have it.
Yeah.
Is basically what we got to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see like, oh, this store is kind of like, oh, this is small and cozy. It's like, you think that's cozy? You try having like the bathroom is like a little closet. And
But so
Yeah.
it is surprising. It's very strange to have New York and LA seem to have so few WPN stores.
right.
Yes.
But it's kind of a question of how much of that is real estate, how much of that is the sustainability of the retail business model.
Yeah.
How large is the player community there? How far are they willing to travel?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
One of the things like LA, for example.
Traffic.
Yeah, well, it certainly might be. Like, I know a lot of people in LA who will never see each other
Yeah.
because they live on opposite sides of LA.
Yeah.
So maybe the player community is there, but we do know lots of players in LA. So they're
Yeah.
clearly people who would play Magic.
Yes.
Are they just being served by stores that are out of LA? You know what I mean? Like they leave LA maybe where there's not traffic and they go
Yeah.
in that direction.
That makes sense.
It's
Or they just play arena, or they just do kitchen
Yep.
table
Yep.
Yeah.
Magic. Yeah, well, no, same thing in New York City. Because like, if you're friends, if you're dating someone, my husband and I was like, if we hadn't both been in Astoria, we never like. If you had been in Brooklyn, like it never would have worked out because it's just too far. Even with the amazing public transportation.
Same thing with me. I met
They're-
one at a gaming store too.
Yeah,
speed dating at a convention.
they're
Ah.
nice.
Oh, we're all just nerds,
Yeah.
guys. No,
Yep.
just we,
So yeah, that's nice that Wizards is aware of. Stores can definitely see this as a challenge, and we're going to talk about retail in a second.
Oh, but I was just going to mention last week we did have that like grant
Yes.
that we were talking about. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, we were talking about the grant, that they are working. It's not meant to be a punishment.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, you can't do this, and so you're not going to get any of the cool stuff. They want to make it, and then still about, because there are things too. There's like, there could be stores that say like, oh, we do tournaments, and they get 3 people and keep the promos or sell the promos. There's
Yeah. Well, but I think it's pretty clear here that Wizards is not expecting one simple solution for
Yeah.
this. So they're trying the grant that we talked about.
Yeah.
They're trying changing the WPN requirements.
Yeah.
So it's something they're focusing on, but just the realities of running a successful game store is tough, and we'll at least touch on that today.
Yes.
I have a feeling
Yeah.
that we are going to end up having to break it up into multiple sections just based on time.
I just top it.
spend too much time on the boat.
I'm sorry, it was a boat.
All right, well, let's jump right into that because we're talking about retail already.
Yes.
Yep.
We have a topic today that we are going to discuss. And I believe
Yeah.
Bonsai is in charge.
I
Bonsai
am
is gonna
taking
school us.
command of this ship.
Teach us.
Yes, teach
Oh,
it.
great
Okay.
bonsai.
All right. So lately nowadays, that has been kind of brought up is what is the relationship, like just segueing, what is the relationship between your FLGS,
Your favorite local game store or
friendly
game
local
store.
gaming store, and game designers, like via Kickstarter, new people coming in. For example, Jamie Stegmaier,
Yeah.
Stegmaier, who's in charge of Stonemaier Games. He basically wrote an article. Basically, I have a double-edged sword. I have customers talking about, hey, we really want these games, but you sell out so quickly.
Yeah.
And I don't have time to go to local gaming stores, and it looks like you're going and like basically prioritizing local gaming stores. And when he sells it individually, the game distributors are like, hey, you need to help us out because it's hard.
Yeah.
Being a local gaming store, like we need to have this income coming in. And he made like a point, like this is like he's just like, hey, what do you want me to do? Is basically the summary of this article.
Yeah. But like my question back is, isn't that every industry?
That is every industry.
Doesn't every industry that produces a product that sends to distributors, that sends to stores?
Yeah.
In the modern age, you have the direct sales channel where you have people come to your website and you buy stuff, and then you have the distribution channel. And like Kickstarter, I think is kind of, arguably somewhere in between, probably more direct salesy. Just because the amount that Kickstarter tends to take, but I think almost every industry has that. So, the challenge of how you make a game store economic work, and between the designer, like if you just think about the chain of where the money needs to happen, the designer needs to make enough money to justify designing the game.
Yes.
The publisher needs to make enough money to print and publish the game.
Yeah.
The distributor needs to make enough to ship it, and the store needs to make enough to stay open.
And sometimes you even have middles between those.
Yeah.
So even with just those 4 steps, it's a lot of groups that need to make money.
Yes.
And some people will say, great, well then we'll all go to direct sales or something like that. But if you do that, then the quality of the printed games are not going to be the same for a lot of people. And cutting out the stores, I'm sure you can speak to this having been in Mox.
Yeah.
It is, for people like us who are super immersed in the industry,
Yes.
it is super easy to underestimate how much or how many people go to a store and discover something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm on Kickstarter all the time. I see a lot of Kickstarters. Great. I'm not the average player.
Well, I think it comes down to the F in FLGS, the friendly.
The favorite?
Their favorites, the whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Because you don't, in this day and age, really have as much your friendly local clothing store or your friendly local grocery store. You have some mom and pop ones, but the friendly local gaming store, because there's so much wrapped up, and they've really moved into this model with Magic and other organized events of doing events and providing food and being hosts.
Well,
More so than just like, here's a place you go to shop.
that does make me think of another key distinction here.
Yes.
Like, you don't have a friendly local clothing store usually.
Yeah.
You don't have a friendly local grocery store usually. Like there are
usually.
some exceptions.
There's-
Like you might
Yeah.
want to go like to the sausage shop or whatever. Like the
Local
cheesemonger in
butcher.
Leavenworth, that's great.
Yeah.
But like in general, those are just commodities.
Yes.
And they're very easily interpreted. You can go to a clothing store, see the clothes in the model, and be like, is that my style? Or you can try it on, and you can tell right away. But games are a little bit different, and they're even more, say, different, I think, than movies. Like, you can see a trailer for a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Games, to me, feel more like books.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where you don't know what you're going to enjoy out of it until you have spent a lot of time with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even so with a book, you read the splash page, you read a couple of pages, you can get a pretty good sense. But with a game,
It depends. But I still think like the books and games take hours to interact with,
Yes.
to really know whether it's going to click for you.
Yeah.
And I think it's worth noting that books and games are two kinds of stores that have gone maybe a little bit away from the commodity market,
Yes.
where
And
it's
more
a big store
personalized.
that's just selling a bunch of stuff, and having the store owner there able to actually, or the employees,
absolutely.
guide you through all of these games that have come out, or all these books that have come out, to find the ones that they're not guaranteeing it, but sounds like what you're into.
Yeah.
Yes.
With the number of games that are coming out, even with Kickstarter, even with Amazon, it feels to me like the role or the utility of the local gaming store is more important when you have Essen and 1,000 games come out a year at Essen and Gen Con and Origins or whatever. Having a store who can help guide me through that becomes more and more important if I don't have the time to do it myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And these are works of art, works of craft too, right? So this isn't something, it's not, some people treat games as consumables, but it's not clothing, I'll wear it, it's like I'm showing my fashion, but it's things that it takes, especially fast fashion nowadays. It's kind of like just throw this thing out there, not a big deal. Like just the designer, as a game designer as well, just like months or years of coming up with ideas and honing those ideas and testing. Just the effort and like the publisher and the high cost of materials too, and the rising cost of materials. Board games have pretty low margins, like lower even than books, I think, for just the amount of time and effort that goes into physically producing them, and everybody taking their cut and needing to get paid along the way. There's a lot of factors that go into, you know, why they are the price. And a lot of people will say they're undervalued for the work, that they're undercosted, underpriced for the value that goes into it. And then you have companies like online retailers or Amazon coming along. And the other thing, where this all came out of was Wingspan. So Stonemaier Games came out with the game Wingspan. You probably heard of it. And there was a huge kerfluffle, and Jamie had to do a lot of damage control about the public perception.
Yeah, because people were accusing him of saving copies to sell on Amazon.
Yes. And what people don't know, and there's so many things about the whole retail chain that people don't know. Like Jamie doesn't put those copies on Amazon. Like those all go through retailers, and people can price them at whatever, and people do shady things. Like they'll drop the price of a copy and like move it, like just to make an extra buck here and there. So, and then they'll underprice and people get mad about it. So there's a lot of stuff that's wrapped up in those things. But also from the retail side of it, it's like you do have that, the friendly local person, you have your staff who can give you a lot of information in the good stores, but there's also a lot of people who come into this business, and I hear all the time of someone's like, I'm gonna start a game store because I'm passionate about games, and they don't necessarily take into account
all those steps,
the details and the costs associated with it.
The game fan who decides to start a store and doesn't do a super great job is a classic and often true stereotype.
And the expenses and everything that goes into that.
Well, so to keep this focused on like the particular topic, because I think we're going to have to break this up. Because you had done a lot of research on both the current state and like the future of retail. So we want to talk about eventually. We want to talk about like what could happen.
Oh, you want to talk about eventually?
No, I'm saying like eventually we would love to talk about that, but we're going to have to kind of carve things up. So right now, you started off with the current model, and why don't we just spend a couple minutes just on the question of what responsibility do the different parts of the industry have with each other?
That's what I was just gonna segue into. Like, so here's an argument while you're on mine of the like the friendly part of local gaming stores. What for example, small designers, you can see it from your own person, like, you've done designing before. Like, what responsibility does small designers have to friendly local gaming stores? Because there have been, like, when I was doing my research, there have been stores that have admitted they don't really support, like, you have, like, yes, they take a stipend, or what is it called? Not a stipend. Is it a stipend? Yes.
A cut? The retail stores?
Of the retail stores, right?
Wholesale price.
Wholesale price.
Yes.
So they can distribute it, and so everyone can get a little bit of something. But a lot of, like, catch, a lot of retailers don't support small gamer designers on Kickstarter. Just for one reason or another, they're worried about not having the sales that they're estimating to have. They're concerned about, like, if the want will be there, the demand.
But from a retailer perspective, supporting a Kickstarter is incredibly risky because you don't know when it's going to be delivered. You don't know what the quality of it's going to, like, there are so many variables that you don't know. Some Kickstarters do a really good job at addressing that. There's a number of companies that have incorporated Kickstarter into their business model. And I think there are some retail stores that have incorporated Kickstarter into their business model.
Yeah, like we were talking to Ethan from Zulus was specifically calling that out, that they back Kickstarters.
Yeah. So like I can see some stores deciding, hey, we're going to back Kickstarters that look interesting for a copy or two,
Yes.
just to have something there. But you know, it's a really weird question when you start talking about what responsibility the different kind of parts of the industry have to each other.
Yes.
Because the question of who owes who gets really weird and complicated. And it's hard for me to say that retailers should back Kickstarters.
Yes.
You know, and on a certain level, it's hard to say that a designer should sell to distribution at retail.
Yes.
Like, I don't think that there's an imperative there. I just think that it is in the designer's best interest to do that. Like, I feel like the designers and the publishers get more out of stores existing than stores get out of Kickstarters existing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, the stores need the designers,
Yes.
but Kickstarter is not the only way that those designers produce games for the stores.
And with that fact, now that we have like more of a gaming like culture being more accepted, there's more like before, people could only go to your local gaming store. That, like when I grew up, that's the only place I knew to go to get like play with people and to meet up. But now, for that like that argument, I'm just like I love local family gaming stores, but I want to go ahead and be that other voice just to have this discussion.
Yeah.
So like, but do they really need that store face? Because they have conventions they can go to. They can go ahead and what's it called? They can go to like Twitch streams, live streams, YouTube to watch how these games are played.
Yeah.
And a lot of times also local gaming stores used to in the past help you connect with role-playing players. Nowadays, like for myself, all the people that I have in my role-playing game are all people that I met either via Twitch or Reddit.
Sure. But we've been calling, there's been predicting the death of stores
Yes.
for how long now? Like I think it's pretty clear it's not going to happen.
Yes.
Like you can have conventions, not everybody can afford to go.
Yes.
Not everybody's interested in going. Not everybody's aware. Like it's super easy to underestimate the value of just having a static place that is open for set times that you can walk by before you even knew you wanted it. Walk in and get introduced to something at the speed that you desire. Like a convention is not going to hold your hand when you're totally new to board games.
Yeah.
And you're not going to spend $70 to go check out this thing.
Yeah.
Where you might walk by the store. Like trying to argue that stores are dead is real hard.
Well, I'm not necessarily. It's just
Sure.
hey, this is the thought that a lot of people have. You know, like I said, I like friendly local gaming stores just because of, like, that's how I met my other half. That's how I met my friends kind of thing when I was younger. But there is that, like, hey, how is the store structure? And with the new standards that Wizards of the Coast is setting, is that going to be good? Because there are some friendly local gaming stores that aren't so friendly. That's why they're having these standards that they have to uphold because they're, you know, being someone who is a female going into a game store. I had those experiences where.
Sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. But as
Yeah.
a counter argument, you know, Reddit, Twitch, the internet.
Yes.
Are you not saying that like there are certainly Twitch streams
Yes.
that are far worse than any game store I've ever been in?
This is very true.
So like, a criticism can be applied to game stores, but I think the better way to look at this is not will online communities replace physical ones, because I'm pretty sure that the past 19 years of the internet have proven that's not going to happen. Not that are they going to replace or how long until stores die or do we even need stores? I think we need to look at this much more like how do we use all of these communities
Yes.
to help bring this huge boom of interest that we have in the hobby to where each of those players is most comfortable being.
Yeah.
And for some people, it's going to be the local game store. For some people, it's going to be online. We need to figure out how to use all those avenues to get them to the games and other players that they want to play with.
I have a lot of data about this. Okay, I have a lot of people right now who are designers, first-time publishers who are just getting their games on Kickstarter, who are dealing with retailers and dealing with distribution. And there's a lot of factors that go into it. For example, it's really hard for a new designer to get into distribution. So just to get your games into stores, distributors, they have so many games now, they won't even look at your game, for example, if you only have one game. They're like, before you come to us, have a catalog of games. And then it's like, okay, how do I support myself and get to the point of having a catalog of games if I can't sell my first games?
A friend of mine had the same problem. You know, he designed an RPG, wants to get into distribution, has a long list of credits for working on D&D and Star Wars and big games. Comes out, everybody likes his game, the distributors like the game, but it's still impossible to get it into distribution.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. And then there's other factors as well, that even if you are, like, getting your game into stores is not enough. Even local game stores, like, there's just, again, so many games coming out. I see it when I was working at Mox and going back there now. I see it with my friends' games all the time. I see them on the shelf. I'm like, I know that because my friend made that, but they're languishing on the shelves because yes, the retail staff are amazing, but they don't know every game. They can't push every game unless, again, they were specifically reached out to. And that's things like just saying, so many people and so many new designers think that they can be successful that way in just I'll get my game into stores and then it will sell and it'll be fine. I don't have to worry about it. Because a lot of designers and small publishers don't want to deal with retail. You know, the reason they want to get into distribution is so that they can manage those annoying details of getting things out there.
So here's my argument. Now that there is, like, you know how we're talking about a symbiotic relationship between designers and retail stores. Should there then be like how they have the local gaming store standards? Should there be one for designers that, hey, if you're a small designer, as long as you click these certain areas, would that...
I mean, like, stuff like that would be great. It's wonderful to be able to give people a clear path of, if you want to be the successful person, do this to-do list. The reality is that that's just not going to work. There's always going to be people who are great who don't fit that list, and there are going to be people who aren't great who are able to check all those things off. Like, that will help guide some people, but I don't think that the standards for designers is the problem per se. I think that just all aspects of the industry kind of need to acknowledge that any one element is not going to be enough. Like, as an independent designer or a major publisher, direct sales are not going to be enough. So sales through distribution, not going to be enough. Sales through Kickstarter, not going to be enough. Unless, like, you have very narrow goals. Like, if you're just a casual designer, it's not your day job, then Kickstarter. I know people who will design a game, put it on Kickstarter, it's out, it's done. That's all they wanted to do with the game. But for folks who want to keep building it, I think it's really going to have to be, you're going to have to hit all those things. And then you're going to have to recognize that once you have your game out there, you're probably going to have to produce material to provide the store, so the store knows how to market the game. Like, you're going to have to think a little more broadly about stuff.
And I think the big thing, I've thought a lot, again, as someone who might open a store someday or has, like, wants to...
It is definitely the gamer retirement plan.
Well,
if you want to waste your savings...
Right, I have ideas, though, about this thing. I've thought very deeply about this, and the problem with a lot of, like, I don't think game stores are going away. I think they provide very good service, especially if there's pay per hour, pay to rent games. Like, there's a lot of bring people together, play games, teach games, great. I think one of the biggest problems that retailers have is you have the people you hire for buyers are us, right? Like, heavy hobbyist gamers who go out and they buy the kinds of things that are exciting, that are the hotness, not necessarily looking at the community and the sale patterns. So they bring in, and that's what they're supposed to do, right? They're supposed to bring in all the hottest, coolest games, but then you have a store that just gets more and more games over time, and the retail can't sell them as fast as they come in.
Is this going to your idea of a game store that has almost no games for sale?
Yes, I think I told you about this. So this idea, because people...
So it's one of those things where I'm with you, and then we... Two paths diverged in the wood.
In inventory, because that's what's really expensive for game stores, is to have the warehouse, to have that real estate, instead of having so much retail, so much inventory, have that space taken up with tables, and still have the ability to procure, you know, having things shipped directly, like having a huge catalog that's accessible, having launch parties, so backing these Kickstarters where it's like, hey, this is the new hotness, pre-sell all of the games or most of the games, so you know your demand. There's a lot of ways that technology can solve these things, because people come into mocks, like I was working there all the time, they'd be like, you have everything here, this is so cool, and they'd leave with nothing, or they'd leave with code names.
Sure. But if they came in and you didn't have everything, it would not be as impressive. It would not be as memorable. Like there is a challenge to that inventory.
Yeah.
But there is a value to it as well.
Yeah. Well, there can be a tight curation of like a rotating spotlight of, here's 10 games, and then a huge library. Like the thing you have everything of is here are games available to borrow, and you monetize that as well.
Maybe.
But I think there's a small contingent of people who are very impressed by that. It's like, oh, you have this game, but again, 95% of the people come in there, look around, and they're overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Buy everything,
Sure.
and not in a good way, not in an impressed way. They're overwhelmed by and then they buy the wrong thing too, because they're just like, oh, this has like pretty cartoon art on the front. Feudum, for example, it's like the art style of this is amazing, and then it's a 10-hour game that takes forever to learn.
Yep.
So I think there's a lot of things technology-wise and technique-wise that friendly local game stores can do just to have more efficiency.
Well, so I think what I would say is I completely disagree with you. But kind of the same way that I feel that we have enough games out now that I love, it's weird, I love being in the hobby at a time where there are so many good games that I can just look at a game and be like, it's not my theme. I'm going to pass on that game. It's great.
Yeah.
I hear it's amazing. Hear it's wonderful, but I don't need to play it. Where, when we started, we had 5 good games.
Yeah.
You played them all.
Back in my day, there was
it,
Farm the Farm.
it didn't matter how interested you were in farming.
Yeah.
You played the game because it was good, and that was the good game.
Right.
The only.
Yeah.
That's what we got.
So, but now, we have so many games that I oddly, perversely, like the fact that I can be super picky and dismissive about a game and not feel like I have diminished the amount of, because I only have so many hours in the day I'm going to play games. And, if the number of games that are good is bigger than that time, I can shave off a lot of amazing games. And my personal time is still spent playing amazing games.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to get at is I completely disagree with that approach for a store, but I hope that we can get to the point where we have enough stores that we can do that. You know what I mean? Like that we have a healthy enough.
Specialized stores?
Kind of, but what I would love us to see more completely different kinds of stores.
Can you imagine? This is only the Grimdark store.
The Grimdark store.
Grimdark.
AKA the Derek store.
Hey,
Darkness.
there would be a shelf for super adorable things.
In the Grimdark store?
Yeah, absolutely.
One shelf?
Yeah, because if you don't see the cute, you can't appreciate the dark.
Oh, yeah, that's fair.
Can you imagine the very cute store that has a little cafe, hello.
It's got a cat cafe attached to it.
This is how they introduce themselves.
Cat cafe / board game store.
Oh,
They all wear
why
cat
isn't that
ears.
A thing? A cat cafe.
right.
I think we know why it's not a thing because of all the board game pieces that would be sold off the board.
I would be okay with that.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So
I
we
think
will have to
we
break up this topic.
yes.
Yeah, we'll have to break up
because
this topic. This
we
is like a
only
two
just scratched the surface. I have many things I want to argue with Derek about, but it'll have to wait
This
for
is why I
Really?
wrote it.
next
Really?
week. Yeah. Or the week after or something.
That's why I have it. This is I stay quiet. I just go, hey, these questions,
There.
answer them, and then you go.
You know what? That is exactly my GM style at a convention. Is to
You
come
argue?
Up, is to come up with a scenario
Oh, okay.
that puts the players against each other, and then you just start off, and for the first hour or two, you're teaching people how to play,
Yeah.
you're getting up to speed, and then you just sit back and you're like, yes,
Yeah.
my pretties, fights.
My machinations are coming to fruition.
But yes, we're gonna have to continue more on this topic. There's a lot to digest. It's like having a big old katsu burger. Have you ever been to katsu burger?
Yeah, I want to climb Mount Fuji someday.
You just.
Is that a euphemism?
Yeah, actually, there's a Mount Fuji burger.
It is.
That
it's
is like,
huge.
yeah, so katsu burger is amazing.
It is.
They have nori fries that are fries with a seaweed nori sprinkled on it, which is, I thought I would hate, is amazing.
Yeah.
No, you gotta try it
umami.
with the popcorn. On Guam, they
I
have.
haven't tried the popcorn.
Yeah, so you can get seaweed and rice crackers in your popcorn on Guam.
The rice crackers, I think I'm skeptical of. Anyway,
Nah.
Katsu burger is really good. They have a Fuji burger that is like
Sorry,
a katsu
that
fried
is the
patty,
only
a
thing I
pork
could
patty,
think
something
of.
else.
Oh my gosh.
so good.
It
Just like-
is an
And they do
aspirational
the
thing.
lettuce. They do it like shredded, like that. But yeah,
It's
sorry,
good
we
stuff.
hungry
just
now.
Go
good
visit
stuff.
Katsu burger.
Katsu burger. We're not
All right.
actually
Anyway,
sponsored, but I mean like
brought to you by Katsu.
Katsu burger. Board game show.
Burger show.
Bundle
So-
Bus.
Bundle
Yes.
Bus.
Bundle us.
We have 2 new bundles this week, or
Yes.
I guess 1 new bundle and a returning bundle from Bundle of Holding. So Trail of Cthulhu, I
Yes.
believe, is the returning bundle.
We did that last week, I believe, right?
No, I think this is a returning bundle from like months and years ago.
Oh, okay.
The Delta Green might be the one that you're thinking of, which I think is still going. You should get it. Anyway, Trail of Cthulhu was the gumshoe version of Call of Cthulhu, basically. So if anybody is kind of familiar with this, the premise of it was basically saying, what's the fun part about an investigative RPG?
Yes.
It's not rolling the perception check to find the clues. It's figuring out what you do with the clues when you get them.
The mystery.
So the key element of Trail of Cthulhu is if you have the skill to get the clue,
Yes.
you get the clue.
Nice.
You show up in the scene and you say,
Yeah.
hey, I have forensics. The GM's like, great, here are the forensics clues.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I do like that because
It's simple.
as much
Yep.
as dice rolling is great, there's some things like I am level 50 sword master of sword stabbing, sword slaying.
yep, and I rolled a 1 and I missed the clue that lets us go to the next scene.
Right.
Dang it.
So,
There's dead
I mean-
people here. What do I do with dead
then it's
people? I've been doing
also-
this whole my life.
Also with investigations, it's very troublesome for me to be like, I'm going to try to ask this question to answer the most. I'm going to try to word it, and then it sounds like somebody's just talking crazy at
Yeah.
you.
well, if you think about it, how many RPGs don't sound like that?
Right,
Because
right.
anyway,
Yeah.
Trail of Cthulhu is very, very good. It takes a great approach. And the thing that I love about the core book, too, I don't know if you're aware of this, that so it's Cthulhu mythos. But like the Cthulhu mythos, is always like, oh, it's so unknowable. No one really knows the truth.
Yeah.
Except then they just publish the game and they're like, here's what Azathoth is.
Yeah.
So what I loved about Trail of Cthulhu is for every like great old one and every old god and stuff like that, they came up with 3 like contradictory explanations for what that god is.
Okay. Yeah.
So you can use whichever one you want, or you can just kind of toss them around.
yeah.
Yep, there's that too.
There's
Yeah.
that too.
Yep, Lovecraft has plenty of problems.
I know.
Lots of problems.
But Trail of Cthulhu is real interesting, and this is a bundle that is back with a bunch of adventures, the core book, all that kind of stuff. It's pretty much everything that you need to run like a very investigation-heavy Call of Cthulhu game if you don't like Call of Cthulhu system,
And the charity is Human Rights Watch.
which I find very appropriate for Eldritch Horror.
There.
So the other bundle is Cities of Cthulhu, and this is a collection of some Trail of Cthulhu adventures and supplements that's slightly different. So there's a couple adventures in here. There's a couple like generally useful things. There's like Dreamhounds of Paris, which was a Ken Hite written artsy time in Paris, a lot of creative people, and the weird mythos stuff that might be going on in the background, kind of visiting the dreamlands, stuff like that. Really like funky stuff.
Yeah.
There's also Cthulhu City, which is the idea of playing in like a horrible alternate dimensions. It's a very like imagine Dark City, the movie Dark City. Playing that in the mythos, basically, I think is kind of a very flippant way to spin Cthulhu City.
Oh, okay.
Is it like Gotham?
Sure.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
kind of, but like wrong.
Yeah.
More like
More
cult,
wronger.
It's more cult and Dark City to me.
Okay.
So it's like the Dark Justice League kind of cities,
Sure.
right?
I think you
Bizarro.
really want
Bizarro.
superheroes. There's no superheroes here.
Okay.
This
Okay,
is,
but I
this
want
is,
super.
Nope. That's a
Just
different
trying to
game.
understand the unknowable.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep. Can't be understood.
Know the unknown.
So those are the 2 bundles on Bundle of Holding. Both are generating Human Rights Watch.
Yep.
I definitely recommend both, and Trail of Cthulhu itself, absolutely worth picking up.
Yep.
Cool. All right.
Yes,
Kickstarters. We have
Kickstarter.
some to run through. We will do so quickly.
So our first one, as spoiled in chat already.
Yeah, chat.
Chat
thanks.
spoiler.
Yeah, actually, thanks, chat.
Yeah.
Thanks, chat. But also thanks,
Yeah.
chat.
Thanks, chat. Thanks, chat.
Thanks, chat.
Reaper Bones 5 is going.
Yes.
And if anybody is not
Bones.
familiar with the Reaper Bones Kickstarters, they basically, you send them a bunch of money, a dump truck will come to your house and will just pour miniatures in the door.
I like the idea that they just like you hand out money and then suddenly you get a knock on the door and there's this big trash bag and then
Dush. Hopefully a
like,
little more
hit you in the
gentle.
face.
So you joke, in high school we actually used to do that with buckets of tomatoes.
Oh no!
Because our garden made so many tomatoes that first the rule at the house was you have to eat your bowl of tomatoes before you have your dinner. If you didn't eat
Before
your bowl of
dinner.
tomatoes, you couldn't
Holy
have
crap.
your dinner.
How big is this bowl of tomatoes?
It was
Those
like
are
this big.
fruits. Those are just fruits.
So
Tomatoes are
we
fruit.
still couldn't eat through all of them. So we used to start filling horse buckets that are like this big, and we would go to people's houses that we knew, put them on the front step, ring the doorbell, and run away before they could refuse them.
I
So
thought you were gonna say you
anyway,
would hit them in the face with it.
I thought you
No.
were gonna hit them with
Yeah.
no,
so
you just
Yeah.
no.
So it's like
less
ding dong
violent.
ditch, but
But with
nice,
fruit.
Yep.
kind of.
Hooray!
What if you're allergic to tomatoes? You're a
Then you
horrible
don't.
person.
Then you weren't my friend for very long. apparently. So anyway, Bones is like you go to the Kickstarter. What it boils down to is, do you want a lot of minis? Then yes.
But there's
like-
no pizza minis, by the way. I looked at
Oh
it.
yeah, there's no. I was thinking it was
It's
gonna
called
be
Escape from Pizza Dungeon.
There
Yeah.
should be at least one chef.
Chef?
They have
Chef
a
dragon.
chef dragon, and this
With a chef
the
hat?
start of the whole the start of the they have a picture of it.
Oh,
Like,
I didn't
the
s-
drawing.
Wait, but there's not
But
a
it's
mini of a
not a
chef
mini
hat.
of it.
See, yeah, but now I just want to open up instead of a wood fire pizza restaurant.
Yeah.
I want a dragon fire pizza restaurant in
Yeah.
D&D. So where's that supplement?
Oh.
Anyway,
I mean, I think it's waiting. It's a story waiting to be told.
we'll take it to Kickstarter in 2020.
Yes.
So, if you want like $1 a mini,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you want to get a whole boatload of minis to paint up, to practice, to use in RPGs, whatever.
And you can kind of mix and match too
Yeah.
for the
Yep.
ones.
But this is definitely a Kickstarter that you go to and you scroll, and you keep scrolling.
Yeah.
It's a lot of
keep
minis.
scrolling.
It's a capital
Ooh.
Kickstarter mini set, you know?
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
go check them out.
You know where these minis would look great?
On my boat.
On the boat.
On the boat.
It has its own boat.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
It
Because
has
they
its
mentioned
own
that.
boat.
But how big is the boat? I mean, is it like a little baby boat?
Maybe if you got both,
Yeah.
you could have that boat fight.
Boat
you wanted-
battle.
Boat battle.
Oh, like
Oh.
just like a fleet. Fleets of
Yep.
boats.
Wonder how large a table you'll need for that.
Warehouse.
It's worth noting at Gen Con, we just played that on the floor.
Yeah.
All right, so that has 1 day left.
One day.
So
you
if
want a
you
million minis.
Yep, 1 day left.
Yeah.
With 2 days left, we have a Drunk Quest Wasted Lands. So if you want to play a drinking game, card game with puns, or specifically if you want to play like basically the classic original one or close to it.
Yeah.
This was first on Kickstarter in 2012, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have some
Renaissance.
re-releases this week.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we've got a number of like 2012 Revenge of the 2012s coming.
Revenge
back.
Yeah.
of the
Well,
2012.
again, like coming back to our discussion about retail, what is one of the things you can do when you're trying to like keep your business going? It's like re-release the things like, hey, people really like this. It's not really around or in retail anymore. We can like have another thing and have a new infusion without having to reinvent the wheel.
Yep.
So, Drunk Quest is coming back.
Yeah.
I kind of have a feeling that if you got excited when I said, would you like to play Drunk Quest?
Yeah.
This game is for you.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
did not,
If you cringe a little bit and like your liver
If
starts
you like
hurting.
your liver, you
yeah.
probably. I mean, you could just be in it for the dad puns.
Yeah.
there are a lot of those.
There's
You
a
have
lot
what
of
though?
puns.
With the Hops Goblin?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a whole lot.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
with
Drunk Quest.
Drunk Quest.
Wasted Lands.
2 days.
it's a new expansion to it.
Yeah.
Yep.
2 days.
With 2 days left, we've got a lot of like 2-3 days left ones.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is the
There's-
time.
So to completely change kind of modes, we go to Ross Rifles, which was a powered by the Apocalypse RPG about playing Canadian soldiers in World War I in the trenches.
Yes.
So if
Very
you wa-
specific.
Yep.
Yeah. So if you're a history buff who loves the World War I era and also happens to really like Canadians, this is a game for you.
From Canada. The
Canada,
Canadians.
right?
Yeah, that's, yep.
Those are words. Wait, are they not Canadians? Are they not called Canadians?
Canadians is correct.
Like the degree to which we can mess with your mind live on stream, because like I really just want to be like, oh no,
They're definitely
they're
Canadians.
They're Canadians. Yep. Canadia.
That's mean.
Yep. But it's so tempting.
So,
It's my scorpion heart.
so
My
the
scorpion
creators for this actually worked in museum education.
Yes.
So there's a nice historical backing to this. And I will say,
Well, they specifically made this game to help teach people
Right.
about that area
Yes.
of history.
yeah, and for
that's-
that very specific niche group of people.
And this is what I love on Kickstarter.
Yes, and for like, we've all watched war movies. If you're talking about a role-playing game, getting into a role-playing game, actually having it rooted in history might give you a little more of a basis. You're like, I've never seen space wizards fighting each other before.
No, you have. You watched Star Wars.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Come on.
I've
Nice
never
try.
seen
No, those are ravers in space. Okay, let's be honest.
undead skeletons.
No, you've seen that one too.
To the extent of like being able to embody, like it can be easier to embody. It's like it's a much more like human scale of combat and conflict, and a lot of it is again powered by the apocalypse. It's very much like this isn't I'm gonna go to combat and roll a million dice and fight. This is a game about
Yeah. Well,
I get my arm blown off.
specifically a game about historical World War I is unlikely to be a hack and slash fest.
Right,
Yes.
right.
Unless the hacking and slashing is happening to you in the trenches.
Right. It's like I see this more as Oregon Trail.
Sure.
For
Yeah.
like
yeah,
you,
that is.
you
You
get
have
trench foot.
trench
you have
foot.
died.
You have died.
Yeah, dysentery. You have
Oh
died
my
of
goodness,
dysentery.
they released a nauseous gas. You have died.
Yeah, that's
There
the
are
whole game.
tanks. You have died.
Well, check that
Frost
out
rifles.
if that sounds exciting.
Oh wait,
Yeah.
was Flamethrower World War II or World War I?
Probably World War I.
Yeah, they had some very rudimentary ones. I imagine they exploded a lot and killed a lot of people accidentally.
By the way, I've actually seen a real flamethrower. That thing is terrifying.
Yeah,
Super scary.
yeah.
I think you mean awesome.
Super scary.
Well, if it's firing at your face, probably
Awesome.
less awesome.
So,
Next up,
next up, with 3 days left, we have Roam and Roll, a roll and write Euro game.
yeah, the roll and write train just keeps on rolling.
Yeah, but this is one I'm actually interested in. Like Marion, who's probably in chat or was earlier, is a Gen Con employee who loves roll and writes. But I've never really gotten into them because I'm a big fan of interaction in games.
AKA
Yes.
screwing people over.
Interaction.
I'm gonna just erase this.
Yep. So I'm a big fan of
I stole your land.
I'm a big fan of interacting with the other players at the table.
Interacting by.
And most roll and write games are very much like kind of build your own thing.
Yeah.
It's a little protected.
If you're going to someone else's board, something terrible has gone
Or
wrong.
great. But this apparently is trying to merge a lot of very classic Euro game elements, and it looks like a Euro game. There's a deck of cards. It's about Rome. Like all the kind of like classic here's the generic Euro game things are there, but you're all kind of rolling and drawing on a dry erase board in your own dry erase boards.
Yeah.
So dry erase board plus player interaction plus like Euro game elements of like building an empire, conquering things. Sounds really intriguing to me.
Yeah, and
So
territory control. That kind
Yep,
of, yeah.
like you have a big map and you're drawing, kind of controlling territory.
Yeah.
And kind of completing some objectives on the map, and that seems a really intriguing direction to take roll and writes. in.
Yeah. It's the kind of thing where you're like, did they have to, like, were they just trying to jam the whole roll and write thing? But if they're discovering some actual new mechanics for, like, uncertain territory control without, because a lot of things traditionally just like put your marker in this our predefined space, but if you can redraw the borders, that seems like a pretty cool use of the
Yeah.
I mean,
technology.
like theoretically, they probably could have managed this without being a roll and write. They could
Yeah.
have like rolled some dice, and you could have had a bunch of tokens, and you just put the tokens in the spaces.
Yeah.
But sure, but
Yeah.
this is a way to kind of take some of that tactile element
Yeah,
of roll and writes that people are excited about, and give a new spin to it. So I'm very excited about it.
Okay.
A new
very
spin,
intriguing.
like of the dice.
But yeah.
Sure.
But speaking of Rome, let's not talk about Rome, but talk about dinosaurs.
Dinosaur.
Dinosaurs.
This is not the cutest Kickstarter this week, but it's close.
It's very close.
So it's dinosaur ranching, right?
Yeah, it's dinosaur ranching. So you play. It's a tiny epic game. It has 3 days left. All those three hitting you out. It's a It's a worker placement management game, kind of where you are dino ranchers.
Yeah.
And you're trying to make orders, match dinosaurs to potential partners, and breed the bestest dinosaur.
The best baby dinosaur.
Best baby dinosaur.
Yes, there's lots of baby
that people would
dinosaurs.
like to buy. It's it's actually cool. It's a 1 to 4 players, usually like 45 minutes. But they do have a solo mode that has like what they call like the like computer or NPC mode, where you just shuffle
Like an
a
AI
deck,
deck,
like an AI deck, where you just shuffle it, and then when you just every turn you play against that like shuffled deck cards. So you can have like a lot of solo, like just have a one solo game. But the crazier thing about this is that for the game, it's like 100 custom meeples for about $20, and you get all the placements and mats. But for $25, you get the 100 custom meeples, resource tokens, gaming mats. It's just a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
It's like,
Well, like that's what the Tiny Epic games are.
Yeah.
Is like that's why people are so excited about them. Is they feel like a huge big box game in
but
a
they're
tiny little portable box.
Yeah. But it is a very cute game, and if you want to go ahead and just raise dinosaurs, and the winning goal is just basically how many orders you can fulfill, like how well do you manage your resources, and do you make the cutest little baby dinosaur?
Yeah, I hope there's a matchmaking element to it.
Oh,
because
there
there's
is.
just like
You
how
just
do
want to
these
play a dinosaur dating sim.
how do these dinosaurs feel about each other?
Yep.
You know?
Dinosaur
wait.
dating sim.
I thought you meant like breed standards. I
No,
was like, yes, you do have to
because
look
the
at breed
dinosaurs they
standards.
have to approve of their mate, right? You're not just gonna mash these dinosaurs together. You need to have.
I'm not sure that
period
consent is a large component of the dinosaur ranching game.
I'm just saying that they should have.
I think they're leaving an opportunity for you to build a game in response.
Yeah, are they gonna bring them flowers and chocolate and take them out on a nice date?
No.
Dinosaur date?
I
Or
don't-
like berries?
Look, don't enforce your culture and mores upon these dinosaurs,
Well,
okay?
that's fair. Whatever their standards are, I'm sure they have some standards.
With 4 days left is our Kickstarter board game of the week.
Oh, yes.
Oathsworn Into
Kickstarter
the
board
Deep Wood.
game.
Yep.
Kickstarter board game.
I think, amusingly enough, we go from a tiny box, tiny, to
Tiny
a
to
huge
The
box.
biggest of
Yep.
boxes.
So this is, you're playing heroes, you have the minis, you're going around in encounters with story decks, and like they were, I think, promoting like how many words were written by like a New York Times best-selling author. Like this is experience the fantasy story.
It's very fancy.
45-hour plus campaign.
That was the base box. There's the second box is another 45-hour plus campaign. So the key component, though, we established this. You can play a bear warrior.
And a bear warrior with interchangeable arms.
with bare arms.
He has the right to bear arms in this game.
Yeah. So one of the expansions.
Not an action figure.
Nope, it is not
Just
an
so you
action
know.
figure. We
The arms
discussed
don't
this.
move.
Correct. There are no points
Unless
of
you have magnets
articulation.
on
But
it.
It
Still
apparently,
doesn't count.
army men are not considered.
Those are toys.
Those
Yes.
are toys.
Yeah.
Toys.
Toys.
So,
Toys.
but this is the first like adventure-y game that I've seen come out that has an expansion that allows you to customize the minis.
Yeah.
Because usually it's all just not pre-painted but fully assembled minis. It's just like one piece. This has an expansion that allows you to swap some of those arms out, so the bear can have 2 axes, or an axe and a claw, or a maul and a claw, things like that.
I mean, that is relevant, interesting. When you're fighting, you have your D&D character. Like, we would have people come in all the time. It's like, yeah, that's a cool half-elf, like, female warrior character, but she has a bow, and that's not my weapon, so I don't feel like I identify with her. Like, it's something that people really care about.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, if you want another kind of really big, deep story, adventure-y thingy,
With
and
bear
you like
people.
bears,
Yeah.
then you have Oathsworn.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
So, with 4 days left, we have Fresco Mega Box coming from Queen Games.
Yeah, fresco being the art that people would paint on like a wall or a ceiling or
Not
something.
being anything else.
Not being anything else.
Because that would be
If you forgot what frescoes meant, yeah.
So, Fresco, though, is a classic game. This is its 10th anniversary. They have released like a big box before that held all the expansions.
Yeah.
This is the Mega Box. So it's an even bigger box. Apparently, it includes a card game variant and a dice game variant.
Nice.
So, if you've been playing Fresco, you've been playing Fresco for 10 years, then you probably have some other issues. But if you've been playing Fresco for 10 years, then
More stuff.
yes, this is going to put everything together.
Yeah.
There's apparently some pledge levels that allow you to get just the new stuff if you have their old big box and stuff like that.
Nice.
So, but it's just a classic coming back on Kickstarter. So you should check it out.
Yeah. Also on Kickstarter with 5 days left, Zombicide 2nd Edition. So
This is the other Revenge of the 2012.
Yeah,
2012.
2012.
Yeah.
That was when it launched.
This is a big deal. People are very excited about Zombicide. I actually got to play a variant when I played the Tebaru at Gen Con, which we had noted before the show was something we haven't heard about more. And it's interesting they're coming out with this, and they haven't really like followed up where they are with the Tebaru. But interesting to see. So this is not the Tebaru version, if you're excited about that. But it is a 2nd edition, and you know, 2nd editions are great. Like, usually, most of the time we'll go through, especially CMON, a company like this, they're going to go through, they're going to fix things that happen, they're going to put new stuff in there, and it's just going to be the better version
There's a bunch
of
of
the
new
game.
minis, new art, new rules.
Yep.
There's like a role-playing game bundled in there too now. There's a ton of stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
Zombicide was, I don't know if it was the first, but it was definitely the game that I had noticed popularized
Yes.
the what's very Kickstarter-y board gamey now. Of
Yeah.
kind of the modular board, a couple of heroes fighting hordes of
Cooperative.
of monsters
things.
that weren't run necessarily by another player.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
That kind of sprawling combat game was basically popularized by Zombicide.
Yeah.
So this is the 2nd edition, and it would be interesting to see how much it incorporates from other successful games in that genre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I have to say, like I'm not a huge fan of zombies, although I pick and choose my zombie favoritism, but it's not a theme that I'm like, oh my gosh, zombies. But I played Zombicide and it's just like, and again, on the Tebaru was very smooth, but you know, you come in there, you get a cool weapon, you're trying to save someone, the zombies come in, you do like a cool move. Like with the minis, I feel like it's RPG-esque combat, but
definitely
kind of
RPG
streamlined,
adjacent,
and you know, you get a weapon, you like shoot and stuff. So definitely worth checking out if you haven't played before. But obviously, if you love Zombicide, you're looking for a
If you're a fan of,
refresh.
if you're a big fan of Zombicide, you
Yeah.
need to go check that out.
Yeah.
All right.
We wanted to make sure that people didn't miss it.
Right, absolutely.
Are you ready for your moment? Are you ready to perpetuate the lie?
The actual cutest Kickstarter board game, not Kickstarter board game, cutest Kickstarter game of the week.
It is disqualified. I
that
disqualify
You
it.
can't disqualify it
disqualify
because
it.
I'm the one who chooses which is cutest.
It's still disqualified.
And you don't have the cuteness sense. Calico. I'm offended. Calico with 6 days left. I'm very excited about this because there's a cat on the box.
Oh, I know
There's
you're very excited
cats
because I
in
think
the box.
every week when we're like, what Kickstarter should we cover? You're like,
Calico!
Calico? Is it time for Calico yet?
But I also have to shout out, this is a game designed locally. It's designed by some of my very good friends. The collab of designers known for Point Salad as well. They're designing this. Kevin Russ is the actual designer, but the Flat Out Games company has put it all together. I've seen this game grow up from a little baby game to what it is now that we know and love. So it's been very exciting seeing the life cycle of this, and it's doing very well too. So it's just very exciting to have local designers
But why don't you explain why you think it's the cutest game?
because there's cats.
Yeah, there are.
Yeah.
How do you, does the
So it's a
gameplay
game,
involve cats?
It does involve cats. Like,
Directly?
yes.
Really?
Yeah, they're mechanical in the game.
Sure, but what are you doing in the game?
You're making a quilt. So it's
Really?
It's a very satisfying tile placement game. The rules of the game are pretty simple and straightforward. You're putting down the hexagonal tiles, you're trying to match colors and patterns, and you're trying to attract cats. Based on, there's lots of different cats. Each one has a name
And a
has a preference.
So what you're saying is this game could be called Comfy Quilt Cat Sit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I'm just,
Comfy Quilt Cats. And I said that was a bad name for a game.
yeah, and then you're like, yeah, I would back that on Kickstarter.
Yeah, it would be, yeah. Comfy Quilt Cat Sit. Big cat on the cover.
Yeah, but so that's the thing, like, there's a big cat on the cover. It's called Calico.
Yeah.
I'm like, cool, my wife will like it because it's a game about cats.
Yeah.
No, it is no more about cats than Splendor is about the nobles that you get at the end for extra points.
It is about cats, though. Like, you have...
So
unless,
is Splendor about the nobles? Like, technically, I guess, yes, but that's not what you do.
Unless-
Technically, they didn't put a calico cat on the cover, though.
there's-
Oh, boy.
But
It's a sore subject. It looks better artistically. Look, it's really hard to get a cat to do anything. And in this game, you have the satisfaction of attracting an adorable cat to sit on your board. It's a cat token. All the cat levels are sold out, by the way. You could have gotten your personal cat's art into the game, but that went very quickly. And now you can have
bet.
your
I'm
personal cat
shocked.
sit on the quilt, which you can't do in real life because they'll never actually come and sit on a quilt when you want them
You need to
'cause
come
they're
see my
jerks.
cats because literally my wife gets so mad at me. I'll sit down to play a video game. I'll have a cat, and a cat,
Cat
and
on the
she will
shoulder,
be
yeah.
super mad.
Because all the cats are
Yep.
coming to. Yeah, that's fair.
He rubs himself with catnip before sitting down.
Yeah,
That's really
basically.
what it is.
I infused it into my shower gel.
They're they're just like
Have you
licking
done the
you
one where they,
furiously.
you put toilet paper on the fans?
No,
and
I
they just,
saw that video though. It was amazing.
Oh my gosh, I gotta try that. Yeah, Calico. 6 days left. Check it out if you like
A
puzzle
divisive,
tiling.
controversial game.
Controversy, which means we'll get more money, which is great. All right, so what's
Yes.
up next?
The next one.
Europa Universalis, The Price of Power. So this is kind of noteworthy because have you ever wanted your board game to be as complicated as possible?
Yes,
Here you go.
it is.
Yes.
So this is a board
More
game.
complicated than the
Yep.
Kickstarter board game.
This is a board game version of the video game. You're competing empires, nation building in like Europe. I think it was like late medieval period.
Yes.
Yeah, late medieval, early modern age kind of. So it's the classic empire building Euro game period. A million tokens, a million cards, super complicated board. What, a 35-page rule book, something like that. You want a deep game? It's here.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting adaptation of the video game.
Yes.
And the other really intriguing thing to me is that the video game is owned by Paradox. Paradox just also released Crusader Kings through a different board game design company that was also in Kickstarter. Paradox owns The World of Darkness. So Paradox is very, very clearly trying to take their properties and spread them both physical and digital.
Yes.
And interesting to me, not with one company. They're spreading them all across the place. Like there are a bunch of licensed vampire board games,
Yeah.
a bunch of video games. It's great to see them taking their video games in the other direction too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Paradox clearly sees this bridging the gap.
Yeah.
And this is definitely trying to take that super complicated Civ video game
Yes.
and put it on the table to play with.
I mean, they do. Europa has a very dedicated group.
Yeah.
Like I can even attest. My husband, he plays Europa, and his biggest thing is but what about the DLCs? What if I want the DLCs
Oh, in the game.
in the game to be a part of
Yeah.
it? Because they always come out with different DLCs. So
And
that's-
then you turned to them and you just said, we called those expansions back in the
There.
day.
Yeah, but are there cats though?
yeah, are there cats? Chat's asking if there's
Yeah,
cats.
Yeah,
There's
there's a cat.
cats.
Yep.
Yeah,
In
sure.
Europa?
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
it about cats?
Yes, it is.
Is
It
there a
is,
cat?
it is as much about cats as Calico is. How about that?
Oh.
You're trying to make the most comfiest empire
There.
so the cat can sit in it.
All right.
Next
That's
one.
Europa. Moving
Europa.
on. We're
6
at
days
we're at
left.
time, so let's be fast.
Yeah, 6 days left. Fossils is basically a really cute, not a really cute game. It's a really interesting game.
Oh, it's
mechanic.
cute.
Yeah.
It's a 3D model game where you just kind of take dinosaur bones, insert it, shake it, then stack dirt on top of it, and then you try to dig it
Just
out.
to clarify, dirt tiles.
Dirt tiles.
Dirt tiles.
Tiles
It's just like
representing-
don't.
Sorry, I meant it's
There's a
tile.
warning. Do not dump
Yeah,
actual dirt.
there's an animated GIF in the project. I
Yeah.
think you really if you just see it,
Yes.
it all makes sense.
Yeah, this is one worth
They're
checking
actually-
out for the components.
Yeah, I think there isn't a cyber. I'm sorry, there's no saber-tooths. They're actual dinosaurs.
Yeah.
that they have on there, but saber-tooths are from a different period of time. Did you know? By the way?
Maybe they'll have a
Yeah.
DLC for that.
Yeah.
Oh, the DLC. Yeah.
Yeah, DLC.
Anyway,
It's the really big thing about this is that you can scale it to age. They have specifically
Yeah, you
have
can.
it so you can if you play with an 8-year-old, there's a basically you scale down these mini rolls.
Yeah.
And so as the child grows, the more in depth. So people like our age can go ahead and play it completely with all the rules
Yeah.
and be super interested. But you can still tone it down for a younger audience.
and that seems like a really intriguing design choice to take, especially for this game, because this is the game that would have been perfect for young Derek before he had discovered the grimdark, and he wanted to grow up to be a paleontologist. And for Christmas one year, I remember my mom got me this block of clay. You would buy a block of clay that had
those.
ceramic bones inside
Oh,
it.
that's super cool.
And
yeah.
you just excavated it, and you're like, I'm a real scientist. And that's what this game does. You got the
Yeah.
little board, it's got all the holes in it. You sprinkle the bones in the holes, then you put your dirt tiles on
Tiles.
top, and then you move your meeple around
Which are
to
nice, like,
remove
chunky
tiles.
plastic tiles, too.
And
Yeah.
then you use your big tweezers
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
pull the bones out of the hole to build all of this seems like a really nice meshing of theme and mechanics.
Yeah.
And I would have adored it as a kid, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's something I haven't seen before, so definitely at least go look at that.
Yeah.
All right, one left.
One left is Hard West, the board game.
Yes.
Speaking of video games becoming board games, this is Hard West, the video game is basically like XCOM in the West.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that sounds kind of cool.
I love
Yeah.
XCOM.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
XCOM in like the kind of vaguely fantasy West, and this board game / miniatures game seems like a little like a nebulous thing.
Yeah.
You kind of use cardboard pieces to build your little Wild West town, and then you have a skirmish fight on it with miniatures or standees, depending on kind of what scale you buy at.
Yeah, yeah.
But like for all intents and purposes, it's a skirmish level miniatures game.
Yeah.
That might have slightly more simplified rules than some miniatures games. Just seems to be kind of an accessible version of that.
Yeah.
So you want skirmish level Wild West combat, check that out.
I see a lot of games doing that because, like, Funkers, like, people are intimidated by just minis game. Like, I'm not a minis gamer, I can't play a minis game. Calling it a board game is a way to get board gamers who can play this and enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's a
take
very interesting branding
Yes.
choice.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
ploy.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
That's about it.
Whew, I think we're done.
We did it. We did it.
We
And
only managed to
didn't-
go over
There-
time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but and you didn't. And good thing you guys didn't resolve into a fist fight because you guys were going. Yeah.
Fight.
A fight.
I have very strong opinions about things.
I have very strong opinions about things.
Yes, and we will make them be different.
Canada.
Media, Canucks. No.
All right, make sure you stay tuned because after this we're going to do a new release rundown. And who do we all have on for today?
Mox, we have Javion from Mox.
Javion from Mox? Oh,
And,
excellent.
and I brought a special copy of Dune for show and tell.
Ooh,
Oh,
I
yeah,
saw
I saw
that out
that.
there.
Yeah.
That's, yeah, very exciting, fun stuff if you're interested in Dune. We're here every week, so make sure to check us out. Same great time, same great place. We also have Brothers Murph on Mondays and Fireside with Peter Atkinson and me now on Wednesdays. If you want to hear about the history of magic, if you like what you're seeing, make sure you follow, like, subscribe, all the fun things, and we'll see you again in just a few minutes. Bye.
Bye.